Good afternoon, everyone. I now call to order the adjourned regular meeting of the Great Park Board at 3:04 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Director Agron.
Here.
Director Liu.
Here.
Director Mai.
Here.
Director Martinez-Franco.
Here.
Director Treseder.
Here.
Vice Chairman Carroll.
Here.
And Chairman Go.
Here. I will now ask our board clerk to provide information on how to participate in today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of our audience who wish to speak may submit their name into one of the speaker kiosks next to the clerk or in the main lobby. We also offer the ability to provide live comments via Zoom and submit written comments through our e-comment system. For those who wish to participate virtually, visit zoom.us using any web browser or the Zoom app on smartphones or tablets and enter meeting ID 160-043-4844. The passcode is 272906. You may also dial in by calling 669-254-5252 or 669-216-1590 and entering the same meeting ID and passcode. Those who wish to provide comments via Zoom are asked to enter the speaker queue by raising their hand electronically. The clerk will call your name and allow you to unmute your microphone at the appropriate time. Those dialing in by telephone will be identified by the last 3 digits of their telephone number. We ask that you please state your name for the record. The time limits per speaker are noted in the posted agenda and shall be established based on the number of requests submitted. All requests submitted after the first speaker is called shall receive 90 seconds. Those who wish to provide written comments may do so by clicking e-comment on the Great Park Meeting Agenda webpage at cityofirvine.org/ICTV. All comments will be provided to the Great Park Board as part of the meeting record and will be uploaded to the city's website. For technical assistance with Zoom before or during the meeting, please call 949-724-6078. For any other questions or assistance, please contact the City Clerk's office at 949-724-6205 or via email at clerk@cityofirvine.org. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully remind my board colleagues to please limit comments to 5 minutes each. I would ask that our board clerk call time when each member's time is up. If needed, I'm happy to entertain additional rounds of discussion on each agenda item. At this time, I would like to invite those who are able to please rise for the pledge to our nation's flag. I'd like to ask Director Liu to lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can be seated. We will now consider presentation item number 1.1, which is an overview of the Great Park operating budget. Those participating via Zoom may now raise their hand electronically to enter the speaker queue. Will the appropriate staff please introduce themselves and proceed with the presentation?
Good afternoon, Chair Go, Vice Chair Carroll, and members of the Great Park Board. Steve Torelli, Director of Great Park. And with me today is Jonathan Nee, Deputy Director of Administrative Services. And today, I have a brief overview of the Great Park operating budget. As you know, we have the mid-cycle budget process coming up in June. Just wanted to give a little bit of a preview on that and update the board and the public. So just as a quick reminder, There's a number of interlocking Great Park financial policies that shape how the Great Park is budgeted, how it's financed. The first one is a resolution dating way back to 2006, really at the inception of the park, which is that no general fund revenue goes into the Great Park. No money that falls into the general fund coffers ever makes its way to the Great Park. There is a carve-out, however, within that the City Council could direct that general fund sources originating in the Great Park development area, that's the old El Toro base, could in fact be used at the Great Park or for the Great Park. Secondly, in 2014, there was an initiative ordinance called the Great Park Fiscal Transparency Act, or as we call it, Measure V, and that's that all of the expenditures can only be made upon recommendation of the Great Park Board and City Council approval, and that's kind of that clunky process that we go through every month where we bring things for consideration of the board, and then it's on consent at council. It also requires that annual Great Park audit. And finally, just before the sports complex opened, back in 2017, there was a sports park complex cost recovery and operating model that the council and board adopted, which was the local tournament model, prioritizing local youth sports during the week, but allowing that tournament play on the weekends in order to help offset the expenses of the park. And the goal at that time was to hit 90%. And as I go through the presentation, I'll explain how that's changed just a little bit over the years. This is just a slide that kind of goes over the different buckets of where our expenditures fall within the Great Park. Largest two are pretty consistent across all governmental agencies with salaries and contracts. The salaries for every person that works in the Great Park are basically completely funded through the Great Park budget. None of that, again, flows into the general fund, and all the contracts to manage and maintain the Great Park. That includes everything from our landscape and facilities contracts, trash service. Internal services are things like the IT service for the park, phone service, copying, utilities, obviously the electrical, water and gas out there, and then and some miscellaneous. On the revenue side, there's really three categories. The first one is program and service fees, and that's one I really want to hone in on for a second. That is what we charge the public for use of the facilities out at the park. That's all of the sports complex permit fees, that's the rental fees that we obtain, and that's roughly a quarter of the Great Park's revenue at this point. There's also some miscellaneous revenue. That revenue is our existing revenue leases, that's Tierra Verde Industries, that's Wild Rivers Water Park, some other revenue streams, interest coming in off of that. And then the largest line share at over 50% is the CFD special taxes. So that's that CFD revenue that comes into the Great Park Fund that goes into guaranteed maintenance, and then the carryover funding not used for bonds ends up into the Great Park Operating Fund. Now, just to provide a little bit of context and some assumptions for the next couple of slides. Over the past 10 years, we've seen a pretty large increase in the total minimum wage. It's gone up 70%. And that directly impacts every contract that we let at the park. In addition to that, prevailing wage has also increased as a factor of minimum wage, and so it goes up at almost the same percentage rate. So why a minimum wage might go to $10 to $15, a prevailing wage could go from $30 to $45, for instance. There's also things that have been added to the park. The park is rich with events. It's rich with a lot of wants and community needs, and so we've added projects and programs to the park over the last several years. And there's some other financial implications. One is that while we have raised some user fees over the years, it's been very, very moderate. And also, we do have an outflow of some cash that goes to the Irvine Public Schools education match funds from the Great Park based on the quantity of schools that are in the Great Park area. A couple of other assumptions built into our forecasting model that I'll show on the next slide is the operating expenses, they're going up as we build the park out. So currently we're at 500 acres, we're gonna go to well over 1,000 acres. It's a lot of landscape, it's a lot of roads, it's a lot of trash cans, it's a lot of buildings. And so there's gonna be an increase in personnel cost to staff that. It's estimated to be around 5 million of that, of the total 19. There's also an increase of contract services to take on all the new areas of the park that's forecasted to be another 10. And then the increase in contract services due to market conditions, that's really those wage increases that have impacted or are going to impact our contract services over the next 3 to 5 years at about $4 million. As most of our landscape contracts were bid about 4 years ago, so they're up for renewal, and we expect those to go up fairly substantially. We've also had forecast some new sources of revenue based on council's previous direction. One of those is permanent amphitheater revenue, and in the chart I'm about to show, that starts at about $8 million in the opening year and goes up to a $12 million stabilized year. It also includes a very conservative estimate for parking at full build-out at about $9 million. So this slide depicts the operating fund over time. As can be seen in the 2024-25 fiscal year, which is the one we just wrapped up, we ended up with a slight surplus of $1.8 million, almost $1.9 million, which is not particularly uncommon of the Great Park Fund. We typically do better than budgeted on an almost annual basis, but we do feel like with the market constraints, we're going to start to use more of the dollars that are budgeted. This year, we're forecasted to have a $7.5 million drawdown. And for context, we've almost invariably had that projected in our budget for well over 7 or 8 years, that there's this kind of this spending deficit that typically doesn't materialize, but we are seeing as the park is growing that we do think that is going to start to materialize more. The good news is, as more of the park comes online, more revenues come in, that starts to dwindle down. But as you can see, even in 2031-32, once we have all the revenues I just talked about on the previous page, we're still a little bit short. And so this next slide is really a forecast and a foreshadow of what we'll be bringing to the council over the next 4 to 6 months. One of them is a user fee update to match market rates. So we're doing a cost of services study for the Great Park. We have to balance that with what the market is willing to pay. Obviously, the cost of operating the park is substantial, and it is probably more than the market would bear. We wouldn't have anybody using it. And so we're going to match that. That will come back to the board and council when we come back for the mid-cycle budget in June. We're also looking to reduce the overall operating costs, and so we're working with some consultants to just look at the operations and maintenance best practices and see where we can fine-tune some things and make the operation a little bit tighter. The third is an item that came to the board a few months ago, and that's the sponsorship opportunities. And really what we're looking to do there is come back with a really tailored sponsorship plan for the park that would delegate some of that authority, because what we're hearing from the sponsorship community is every company doesn't want to have their item heard necessarily at a board meeting. And we think that with some minor tweaks to that policy and some delegated direction from the board and council, we can get to a place where that number could hit potentially in the $2 to $3 million a year range. And the fourth and final is pursuing some additional revenue opportunities. And this includes things such as capturing hotel and sales tax for items that might come into the Great Park neighborhoods. It's the idea that we might bring in additional revenue driving activity. Currently, we've done a lot of nonprofit work in the Great Park, but looking to see if maybe a hotel might be something that we want to bring into the Great Park that could drive a substantial amount of both lease revenue and TOT. There might be some other options to look at. So those are kind of the 4 additional balancing measures that I think we could expect to come back before the board and council in the coming months. With that, I will conclude my presentation. We're certainly happy to take any questions that the board or the public has.
Thank you. I will now ask my colleagues if they wish to ask any questions or comment at this time. Director Martinez-Franco.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to have a little bit of background, since obviously I'm very new and I don't know too much of the history, but I'm just thinking a lot of the homeowners in Irvine pay home taxes, right? And those home taxes go to the general fund, to the entire city of Irvine. When and who decided that the Great Park home taxes will go only to the the Great Park?
So the general property taxes for the Great Park go into the general fund. There is a supplemental special tax, what they call a Melrose or a community facilities district, that was overlaid. That was voted on by the landowners prior to the land being developed. That was Lennar Heritage Fields that placed that on in order to fund those amenities. So it's only that portion of the tax from that portion of the city that goes to the Great Park, but they still pay a general property tax that goes into the general fund. It's just a supplemental tax.
Okay, so with that said, then why, can you explain to me why $12 million from the amphitheater have to stay in the Great Park and not have a few million spread throughout the city, since a lot of events go to the Great Park. Yes, I understand, but I think they need to start sharing. I'm pretty sure that if we have a revenue from somewhere over here, it will be spread throughout the city.
Yeah, the reason why is if you look at this page right here, even with the $12 million, we still have a deficit. And so without a balanced budget, without doing balancing measures, by the time we hit 2031, 32, we're out of money completely. And so the $12 million is needed to be able to keep the park afloat. And in addition to some of those other things on that last slide, in addition, the amphitheater itself is largely paid for out of that CFD tax. For instance, if it didn't occur, the city would essentially not spend a substantial amount of the CFD special taxes in order to maintain that in the operating fund to pay for the other features of the park, because it brings in a lot of revenue to operate the public areas of the park that everybody in the city gets to enjoy, is funded by that amount of money.
I still think that some of the money should come back to the entire city, since it's and decide on what else to spend, or even if it's in District 3, I think there is other communities around the Great Park that need a little bit of these benefits as well. So, I mean, it would be decided maybe later, but yeah, thank you so much.
Director Treseder.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for updating us on this. So I just want to say that I hear you, that at this point, our finances for the Great Park are not sustainable in the long term. We either need to reduce our expenses or increase our revenues, or both. And I think that's important for me to consider as I'm thinking about things to do in the Great Park. We get asked by a lot of folks to add things, and I try to be very judicious in what I entertained, just because I don't want to get further in the hole than we are already. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Mai.
Thank you, Chairman. So yeah, based on this presentation and looking ahead next year and the following years, this is not an easy question, but what major adjustments are we going to need to do based on these trends to keep afloat?
So I think the major adjustments are really what's on this page. The update to user fees, there's unfortunately been a lot of community pushback when user fee increases have been brought in the past. We have a lot of beautiful park amenities in the city, and I think we really need to start looking at the Great Park as that crown jewel amenity that maybe deserves a little bit of different attention. And so the council and the board's assistance with increasing those fees when that comes back. And also, again, on the sponsorship opportunities, those two things, if approved by council, I think would more than balance the fund and give us even a little bit of a surplus in the operating fund.
Okay, and are there any timeframes or milestones where we should be accomplishing this, or that they're going to be coming forward?
Yeah, I would expect a lot of this could come forward in the next 6 months. A lot of decisions on these items will be coming forward in the next 6 months between now and June, July. Obviously, as we come through with the budget update in June, and as we do our kind of updated budget forecasts and updates to the board, we'll be tracking this and presenting this on a fairly regular basis. I think this is something that's definitely worthy of both the board and the public's vision on.
Thank you.
Director Liu.
Thank you. So echoing my colleague's comment, it just doesn't look like we have a sustainable model right now without making changes. So I guess my question is about the study for sports complex. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what the current fee structure is like and how much we're charging, and if there is a difference between, say, an organization versus residents?
So I can speak generally, and I think Corey Hildebrand might be in the audience that might be able to provide a little bit more context and color to it. But essentially, there's a number of different tiers where your commercial adult tournaments would be the highest paying, and your local youth serving leagues would be the lowest paying. And at this point in time, where we land at cost recovery, the goal is 90% for the sports complex. We're currently hitting somewhere in the 70-ish percentage range. That's because a lot of those costs have just gone up substantially over the last few years. And when you look at I hate to call them the winners and the losers, but when you look at, baseball and tennis, they make more money than they cost to operate, but the cost in some other facilities like baseball and softball substantially outpaces that. So as we make that adjustment, we're going to look at what that actual cost is in baseball and softball, for instance, and see how much the market will tolerate, especially in that tournament market, the national tournament market, in order to help raise those rates a little bit and do some potential private-public partnerships in order to close that gap. And I don't know if Corey's here that could add a little bit more context to the overall fee structure.
All right, thank you. We will now consider public testimony. At this time, I will ask our board clerk if there's any members of the public who wish to speak on this item.
There are no requests, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This item is receive and file. Thank you so much for your presentation. I know how difficult it is to manage a city within the city and the complexity behind it. We will now hear public comments on matters not on the Great Park Board agenda. Those participating via Zoom may now raise their hand electronically to enter the speaker queue. Any member of the public may address the Great Park Board on items within the board's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on the agenda. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. Will the board clerk please provide the number of requested submitted to speak on non-agendized item?
There are no requests to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Executive Director Crumby, is there a report to be made this afternoon?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one announcement tonight. I wanted to share a brief update as it relates to the Cultural Terrace portion of the Great Park. 1 week ago, the city was notified that Orange County Music and Dance, OCMD, will no longer be pursuing relocation into the Great Park. They'll instead remain at their current campus and maybe even expand there. While this decision is disappointing for us, the Cultural Terrace is still moving forward as planned, and this creates opportunities for continuing to look for the right partner to take advantage of the prime location. Before closing, I'd just like to wish OCMD good luck and much success in their future.
All right, thank you for that update. Do any directors wish to make comments or provide a report at this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Executive Director Crumby, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda currently?
None to my knowledge.
Thank you. We'll now move on to consent calendar. The Great Park Board will consider item number 2.1 to 2.4. Those participating via Zoom may now raise their hand electronically to enter the speaker queue. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be the Executive Director's routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Great Park Board request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion. Before I turn to my colleagues, we will consider public testimony on items listed in the consent calendar. I now ask our board clerk to provide the number of requested submitted to speak.
No request to speak, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do any directors wish to remove items from the consent calendar for separate discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Director Triceder, seconded by Director Martinez-Franco. Sorry, Director Liu. Apologize. Will the clerk please conduct a roll call vote?
Director Agron.
Yes.
Director Liu.
Yes.
Director Mai.
Yes.
Director Martinez-Franco.
Yes.
Director Treseder.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Carroll.
Yes.
And Chairman Go.
Yes.
Carry 7-0.
Moving on to board business, we will now consider item 3.1. Will the clerk please read the title of the item?
Consideration of a request by Chairman Go and Vice Chairman Carroll to discuss a recommendation to award continued operations of the Great Park Amphitheater to PSQ Productions.
Thank you. Those participating via Zoom may now raise their hand electronically to enter the speaker queue. Both Vice Chairman Carroll and I requested this item to be agendized for current discussion. Before I start, I'd actually like to open up to Vice Chairman Carroll. I will be speaking quite a bit more on this item later as well.
No, thank you. Appreciate to and excited to bring this forward and just see what some of the public comments are and what the position of the rest of the Great Park Board is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that so much. Before we get into the full details, the item itself was brought up. As you know, it's been long anticipated. We're trying to move things forward, and as you saw from the budget items, it is a large hole that we can fill in the operating side. So I just want to open it up right now first for my colleagues to do a first round of comments before I go on to public speakers. Seeing none, I open it up to public speakers. We will now hear public testimony. I will turn to our board clerk and ask if there are any members of the public who wish to speak on this item in person as well as on Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 14 requests to speak, 12 in person, 2 on Zoom, and our current procedures would allow up to 2 minutes per speaker.
Thank you for that. So with that said, each speaker shall be limited to 2 minutes. Requests to speak submitted after the first speaker is called shall receive 90 seconds. We will first consider public testimony by those attending in person, followed by Zoom. I will turn back to board clerk to call those who wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could call forward Part 2, Nick Poor, Kim B., Richard Anderson, Mark Entner, and Lavelle Brewer.
Good afternoon. My name is Parto Nikpour. I'm the board member at NEPOC, which stands for Network of Iranian American Professionals of Orange County. We held 2 fall festivals at Great Park with the help of PSQ in the past 2 years. And I couldn't be happier to have PSQ as our vendor. PSQ is an Irvine-based company with more than 10 years of successful operation at the Great Park. They designed, built, and launched Great Park Live in just 6 weeks and have operated it successfully since June of 2024. The PSQ leadership team and employee live in Irvine. This is their community. Continuing with PSQ keeps jobs, revenue, accountability, and decisions-making local. I also have lived in Irvine for the past 22 years, and I couldn't be happier to have seen the operation that they do at the Great Park. It ensures the permanent amphitheater is delivered with the true Irvine-first mindset. PSQ doesn't just operate Great Park Live, they designed it, built it, and now they manage it. And I firsthand saw the operation as far as the booking, marketing, ticketing, parking, traffic coordination, public safety, food and beverage. There's no learning curve, no operation reset, and no delay in programming. It's a transition perfectly to the permanent facility. And just to finish it before my time is up, PSQ operates without conflict of interest, and that's a big, in my mind, a big issue that we need to consider. Thank you.
Kim?
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chairman Go and board directors. My name is Kim Badir, and I'm here representing an entity called Venue Solutions Group that is in partnership with PSQ Productions. Over the course of my own 30-year career in venue management, I have had the privilege of working in a number of different management formats, anything from private management to private ownership to also working directly with city government. I was most recently, when I was in a venue at Honda Center over in Anaheim, so one of your good neighbors. And prior to that, I worked for the city of Tacoma in Tacoma, Washington, operating all of their city venues directly as well. In my direct experience, the actual management structure isn't what's most important to the operation of a venue. It's really all about the people and the people who are on the ground, and particularly here in Irvine. When the formula combines that deep experience and industry connection and the expertise that a company like PSQ Production has, that's the successful formula. Mark Entner, who you know with PSQ Productions and his team, they are the right people on the ground for right now and also for the future. What's interesting about them is they not only have the experience that I speak to, they also have a proven commitment to the city of Irvine and the community at large. They work here, as you heard. They live here. And they report not only to you, but they report to their friends and their neighbors in the grocery store and at Great Park itself. Mark Entner, I'm not sure you're aware, spent 2 decades at a neighboring amphitheater in Orange County, so he also comes with deep experience to bear, understanding Orange County itself. And of course, he can have that happen at Great Park Live. Just wanted to say that Orange County is very unique.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Richard Anderson.
Good afternoon, directors. Thank you. Building on the previous speakers, I've had an opportunity to be closely connected to PSQ over a number of years as a part of the VSG organization as well. My background is sports and entertainment management. Not too far south, I led the opening and management of Petco Park during its first decade. Former CEO of what's now Hard Rock Stadium and Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh. I've had an opportunity to see a lot. I say this as objectively as I could possibly say it, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe it 100%. You couldn't have a finer group of people, and I couldn't more strongly agree with what Ms. Badir just said in terms of it's not so much about the name of the company on the back, although that's important, is it the name of the people that are on site. That show up on a regular basis, and there's some fantastic management companies out there, and I've had the pleasure of working with many of them. I just couldn't say more positively how strongly I feel about Mark, Jordan, Katrina, and the staff here as we've had a chance to work with them on a number of fronts. The second thing that I was super impressed with is that they got this temporary venue, which is not an easy task, open and operating in a period of about 5 weeks. Pretty unheard of. And then over the first 2 years, they've had about a 40% growth year over year, and we'll continue to see that this year in terms of events. And that's pretty unheard of in our industry. So I conclude by saying I don't think you could have a stronger candidate to carry out this incredible cultural amenity that you're building for this community, and I highly encourage you, while it's a difficult decision and you've got probably many great options, I just don't think you could do better for the community than to select them as your award winner. So thank you for your time.
Mark Entner.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Mark Entner. I'm the founder and CEO of PSQ Productions, headquartered just across the street from the Great Park. From the past decade, the city of Irvine has trusted our team and our team of 25 full-time employees, 300 part-time employees, to produce and support over 1,000 events at the Great Park since 2017. So, our strengths in the time that I have here that I wanted to highlight is execution under pressure. From leading the design, construction, and operation of Great Park Live and having it open within 5 weeks to collaborating daily with the City of Irvine team to make sure that we are able to execute and be able to grow all the events that are taking place at the Great Park That's one. The second is independence and integrity. PSQ does not operate competing other venues in Southern California. We commit that we will not. Operators managing multiple venues in the same market must decide where to route artists within their portfolio. In these situations, Irvine will not always be the priority when stronger relationships or greater financial returns exist in a neighboring city. That dynamic will directly impact Irvine's ability to consistently get top-tier talent, and that is super important when the city is looking to invest $200 million into a new amphitheater. Thank you so much.
Mr. Brewer, and if I could also call forward Felix Mussenden, Doug Elliott, Kristen Sten, Jason Perry, and Ryan Golden.
Good afternoon, Chairman Go and members of the board. My name is Laval Brewer, and I am a resident of Mission Viejo and an enjoyer of the Great Park. I would not go on and say all the things I've heard already. You know what you've heard about Mark and PSQ. I'm just going to talk about one thing that makes me feel that they're the right organization for you to continue to work with, and that is they believe in Irvine. They believe in Orange County. They believe in our community. They believe in the people who come in and enjoy the park. They've done wonderful things for my organization, South County Outreach, and recently, when we had the SNAP benefit issue, PSQ came alongside of us to ensure that during the pouring rain out in this parking lot, that we had everything we needed to be able to secure additional food for the citizens of Irvine, and made it possible for us to collect that food, keep it safe, get it packaged, and get it redelivered back into the city of Irvine to the cities and their residents. I respectfully ask for you to just go ahead and make a decision to continue their contract. Have a great evening.
Felix Mussenden.
Thank you, board members. And I've met most of you through the last 2 years that we've been working on the design of the amphitheater as the design consultant for the city and working closely with Populous and staff. Legends Global manages over 450 venues worldwide, including 7 NFL stadiums, 4 NBA arenas, performing arts centers, and theaters, including the Greek Theater for the city of LA. 98% of our management agreements are with cities and municipalities or government entities. We manage venues to the goals and objectives of the city, developer, or owner, and create local teams that become part of the community and part of the city staff as it relates to delivering those goals and objectives. We were awarded the operating agreement 2 years ago. We are currently under contract for the operating design services of the amphitheater, and the architect Populous working closely with city staff to meet the goals of the city as it relates to how the design and how this amphitheater will operate within the Great Park. Our engagement over the past 2 years has included providing input from subject matter experts that we have throughout our industry, throughout our network, in the areas of security, content, to provide input from a standpoint of the local promoters and Live Nation agreements to deliver national content to the amphitheater. We've also met with the amphitheater content providers and gave them an update on what the amphitheater looked like and got favorable reviews. Our central content and booking team also worked closely with city staff to deliver a business plan for the amphitheater. And that business plan was based on market comparable venues that we have within our network.
Thank you. Your time is up. Doug Elliott.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm Doug Elliott, a city commissioner speaking only for myself. I don't have a horse in this race, but I do have some major concerns about the process here. First of all, I think there's a Brown Act problem. I don't think the agenda adequately describes what's really being proposed here. It seems to suggest just an extension of the current operating contract for this temporary facility, when in fact, What's being proposed is a long-term contract for the permanent facility. Two very different things. My friend Roger Bloom wrote in Irvine Community News and Views a couple of years ago, at their February 27th meeting, council members unanimously voted to hire Populous Inc., designers of the beautiful Sphere Arena in Las Vegas, to design a new 8,000 to 10,000 seat amphitheater for the Great Park. They also voted to retain ASM Global, operators of the iconic Greek Theater in Los Angeles, to consult the design from a venue operator's point of view. The actual operators of the new venue will be chosen later. And he went on to say that, meanwhile, PSQ has been hired for the temporary facility. So those are the existing players, and I think it's important to keep the status quo in place. There's no urgency about finding a contractor for this permanent facility that won't be built for several years. It won't be operating for several years. I think we need full transparency. We need a competitive process, and I opposed the proposed contract for Live Nation as a sweetheart deal, and this is looking very much to me, I'm afraid to say, as another sweetheart deal. Chair, respectfully, I think we need full transparency concerning your relationship with this vendor, and let's.
Thank you. Your time is up. Kristen Stem.
Hello, my name is Kristen Sten, and I'm the general manager of the Greek Theater, and I work for Legends Global. Our company has managed the venue for 10 years, and we have recently been awarded a 5-year extension. Our season runs April through October, and during that season, I can book 82 concerts, which leaves 283 days of the calendar to book special events, in which I book film premieres, cultural events, graduations, and family shows, and so on. My responsibility as general manager of the Greek Theater is to align, meet the expectations and the goals of our client, which is the City of Los Angeles Recreation and Parks Department Executive Management Team. I do that in several ways. Things that are important to the City of Los Angeles Recreation and Parks Department which is our client, is that we work locally with local vendors, suppliers, our staff and our management team, and also that we are embedded and integrated in the community. I hire local vendors, suppliers, brands, and our management team is a team of 20 at the Greek Theater with 500 local part-time seasonal staff. That includes staff in all departments, areas of security, operations, housekeeping, parking, transportation, medics, police, etc. My responsibility to the neighborhood and our neighbors, the community integration, is there's one way in and one way out of the Greek. We're nestled up in a park. You have to drive through a very exclusive neighborhood to get to the venue. So traffic, sound is extremely important in keeping those parameters to the client and making sure that the city, or the neighborhoods is what they want us to do.
Thank you. Your time is up. Jason Perry.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. My name is Jason Perry. I'm a general manager for Legends Global up in Stockton, California, where I oversee 5 multi-use properties hosting over 235 events annually. And what I want to talk to you about is all about our community involvement and how we are rooted in the foundation of our community. We not only look at the city as our client, but our true partner, and we look at things with one voice and one vision because we are an extension of our community and our partner, the city of Stockton. We volunteer in our community. Of my 33 full-time employees, 30 of them were born and raised in the city of Stockton. They have been with the venue, most of them, 80% of the full-time staff, have been with the venue for over 15 years. And beyond that, we have 450 part-time employees who are rooted right in our community. We contribute through payroll over $9.6 million back into our economy, in the local economy in Stockton. And that is directly impacting our residents at large because, as I keep referencing, we are members of our community and wholeheartedly look at the partnership for which we share. We volunteer in the community because we know without the vision of the community, we don't have the support of the community, and we want to make sure we give back in every meaningful way. That's through volunteering in our parks, our local nonprofits, but also spearheading volunteer opportunities where we sit on boards of directors and make sure that we have a voice in the vision of our community so that we can leave a long-lasting impact in the community, because sports and entertainment for which we bring really enriches the lives in our community. Thank you.
Ryan Golden.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Ryan Golden. I'm the General Manager of Pechanga Arena in San Diego and also an employee of Legends Global. And at our arena, it's simple of what we're trying to do is deliver excellence. We focus on what I call a moment of truth for every guest we serve. And that includes not just the artist and promoter, but the city and, even more importantly, the community members spending their hard-earned money to be at the arena. That moment of truth is what's supposed to give you goosebumps. It's supposed to make you smile and make you want to come back to do it all over again. And delivering that moment takes more than just booking shows. It also takes trusted relationships. I serve as the liaison between our IATSE union locally to ensure that we're hiring local trade, skilled trade workers for the high-level productions that are coming into our facilities. And this is something that we would want to bring in to Irvine. And those partnerships are built on trust, collaboration, and consistency that are essential to bringing in these world-class events. Also, my responsibility of bringing in these events is also delivering for the community, bringing in food drives, blood drives to help the people that need it most. And we're always looking how to make that guest experience stronger and the community better. And for the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of working closely with City of Irvine staff to help shape what this new amphitheater can be, often putting myself in the operator's seat to think in real time how we deliver this moment of truth for this community. Legends Global understands that this venue is not just a stage, it's a very important city asset. And we're ready here to deliver moments its residents will be proud of for years to come. And we ask that you look at making Legends Global the long-term operator. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 more individuals that have videos. So if I may, I'll go to we'll take the Zoom speakers and then we'll come back.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mari Fujii. Mari, you may unmute your mic.
Thank you. Thank you, esteemed Great Park Board members. Though I am chair of the city's Transportation Commission, I'm speaking for myself today. I do appreciate Council Members Go and Carroll's efforts, but after reading their memo to recommend that the board award the management and programming of the amphitheater to PSQ, I strongly urge that this request be denied. Awarding an important contract such as this without first allowing staff to conduct a thorough review of other capable and experienced vendors, along with a competitive bid process, it goes not only goes against good governance, but it goes against common fiscal sense. The memo implies that the recommendation to award the contract to PSQ would apply not only to the temporary amphitheater, but also the permanent one. With the construction of the permanent amphitheater not even started yet, the board has ample time before making any decision, which should include a transparent and fair process to assess and review multiple and capable vendors through a competitive bid process. And if PSQ is the best choice, as some public commenters have stated today, it will be borne out through a more thorough and transparent review and, again, a competitive bid process. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jeremy Ficarola. Jeremy, you may unmute your mic.
Yeah, hi there, Jeremy Ficarola. I'm a urban resident and also president of this village HOA, obviously. Myself. And I want to echo the remarks of Doug and RFG. I think I read the memo, I read it a few times, it's a little bit difficult to understand exactly what was being asked. And I agree, there seems to be two steps to this. One is, extending the status quo with regards to the PSQ and the temporary amphitheater. But then there's a second part, which is extending it all to the permanent amphitheater. I think that's a huge leap. I think that aspect of it, with regards to the permanent amphitheater, the permanent operations, should go through the competitive bidding process. We need to see other players, whether it be Legends or anyone else out there, and see what would be the best option. But I feel comfortable just awarding the contract right now on the spot in such a rushed way. I'll agree with that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Branda Lynn. Branda, you may unmute your mic.
Good afternoon, this is Branda Lynn, lifelong urban resident, and I agree with the public comments made by Doug Elliott and Mari Fuji regarding the competitive open bid process. And based on the public comments from the representatives from the Great Theater and Stockton and the other, forget the name of the arena, it does make me wonder whether Irvine reached out, and if not, we really should uphold the process. Additionally, Chairman William Goh should recuse himself to avoid the appearance of, or in time we may find out, appears to be a blatant conflict of interest. The public is awaiting responsive documents to a public records request made by Irvine Watchdog relating to the gifting of admission tickets by Chairman Goh and the receipt of such tickets by Chairman Goh from companies including PSQ. PSQ, I believe, oversees Winterfest OC in Costa Mesa, the Orange County Soccer Club, along with the performances at Great Park Live, all of which William Goh did gift admission tickets to dozens of members of the public, including his friends, city staff, commissioners, and community leaders. Ethical codes for public officials almost always requires them to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. And in light of the pending public records request, in order to avoid any appearance of conflict, Chairman William Goh should recuse himself from this vote, and it's concerning that he even agendized this matter given the pending public records request. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David L. David, you may unmute your mic. You have 90 seconds.
Yes, this is David Lingerfeld, and I don't know which way to go on this. I'd like to challenge the board to a couple of things, question a couple of things. One is Legends is there, and they didn't address at all some of the accusations of them not being independent. So I'd like to know with the competing venues how they would treat the one at Great Park Live, different from the other ones that are nearby. And secondly, it is quite a leap to go from Legends to PSQ when it comes to getting the big acts. So I didn't hear any of that addressed either. So hopefully as you go through this process, whether it's a decision today or a decision months or even years from now, hopefully there's some points being driven around how PSQ would get the big acts, or how Legends, if they're chosen, how they would maintain independence and still have the big acts coming to the Great Park instead of competing facilities. Thanks.
If I could call forward Katrina Carlson and Harry Can, and we'll start with Katrina.
Good afternoon, Chairman Goh, Vice Chairman Carroll, and the board. I'm Katrina Carlson. I'm an Irvine resident, as well as a member of the PSQ Productions team. We have a short video here highlighting the successes of Great Park Live over the course of the 2 years that showcase the community, our local vendors, and the commercial acts that we have been doing. Thank you so much, and we're really grateful to be here.
Harry.
Good afternoon, members of the board. We too have a video that we'd like to showcase in the brief time that we have left as the last member of the Legends Global team that we feel showcases our position, our expertise, and our experience on a worldwide stage to help the city continue to make this great amphitheater, Great Park Amphitheater, something special. Let me just quickly close. With regard to this tremendous opportunity, this is going to be a significant investment. Don't settle for just being another venue. There's plenty of venues out there in the city. Don't even settle for just being a marquee venue in this region. We at Legends Global see this opportunity. We see the potential.
Thank you. Your time is up. And that is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Carl. I just want to thank everybody for their comments. I've met with many of you folks in the past few months. I really appreciate, all the time that we've definitely spent together and, getting through this process. I think just a general comment, everybody's been great. I think everybody's more than qualified. I don't know, I want to commend us. It's kind of special to be in this position where people want our business, and Irvine's such a great place to have this venue. And I do appreciate everybody for participating. And let's start with that. And I just want to move forward with our director colleagues here. You're up first, Director Mai.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the presentations from both groups. I've attended quite a few of the shows that PSQ has put on, and they're wonderful. ASM and Legends has a great reputation as well, and seeing these videos, it almost feels like it's a competition up here. And however I feel about the quality of the service that is going to be provided, that's not of discussion for me. What is discussion for me is the historical procedure of this. There's 4 members of this board here that were not here when these things were negotiated. I would ask somebody from the staff if you could give us just a basic condensed timeline or something that we could just, do you have something that you could tell us a little bit about the background in terms of this? I don't know who from the staff could do that.
We do have a short deck that goes through the history of our development of the amphitheater.
Okay.
Sorry, just a few slides.
Are you presenting it, Sean?
No, Liliana Bogdanovich will be presenting tonight.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. I'll go through quickly just some history regarding where we got to, how we are here today. So just some history regarding the actual venues that have been in the city here. Irvine Meadows, as many of you know, was around for decades, 16,000 capacity, closed in earlier in 2016. Then 5 Point Amphitheater was brought on board as the temporary venue with a 12,000 seat capacity. During that time, it was always intended to be temporary, so it closed. Then Great Park Live was directed by the board to come forward. In 2024, that opened to now, 7,500 capacity, and as you all know, it is operated by PSQ. Some other board actions regarding your question, Director Mai, this is kind of how we've gotten to where we're at right here. So in July of 2023, the Great Park Board terminated the negotiations with Live Nation, directed staff to do what we're at right now in terms of the permanent amphitheater with 8,000 to 10,000 seats, making sure it's an open booking model, meaning that any promoter can come in and book, so Live Nation, AEG, all of the others. A house speaker system to make sure it's integrated into noise mitigation and that it's well integrated into the Great Park design. September of that year, staff came back to authorize an RFQ for the actual operations of the permanent amphitheater. So regarding this process, there is a competitive process that has played out. I'll go into that a little bit later. And then also engage in discussions with Pacific Symphony to have them as our resident orchestra for Irvine. November of that same year, we provided an update regarding the permanent amphitheater, and we were directed to move forward with Great Park Live with a 6,000 to 8,000 seat temporary venue and open it for the summers of 24, 25, and 26. Thereafter, in February of 2024, we brought forward 3 agreements. A Great Park Live contract with PSQ for the amphitheater setup and operation, an agreement with Populous, as mentioned earlier, that they have designed the Sphere and amongst some of the other larger venues. That agreement came forward as the architect for the permanent operator. In addition, as part of the competitive process that was directed by council, we brought forward Legends Global as the operator consultant to make sure as we're designing the amphitheater, it is being informed by qualified individuals who have been in the space and who have operated this size and scale and magnitude of venue. November of 2024, that's when an action was brought forward to this board by the then council to reaffirm PSQ's contract for the temporary amphitheater for a 3-year period and increase the amount to $3 million annually and pay all outstanding invoices. Regarding the competitive process, as I mentioned earlier, there was a competitive process put out. There was 5 respondents that responded to this. There were minimum qualifications regarding this RFP process because of the scale and magnitude of what it is that we are constructing. It's a $200 million capital project out there. 5 respondents were submitted, so Legends, TVG, Oakview Group, Niederlander, PSQ. There were 2 components of the actual RFQ, one for the permanent amphitheater, one for the temporary amphitheater. Legends Global scored the highest and top ranked for the permanent amphitheater based on their years of experience, based on other venues, based on the fact that they can provide marketing plans, sales plans, making sure that there's adequate revenue that's brought forward to the city. So they were scored on the competitive process. PSQ was ranked first for the temporary amphitheater, but there was a competitive process that has already been conducted. Regarding what is coming forward with the actual permanent amphitheater and what we call the AMP, here's a rendering of what that looks like. It is, as most of you know, started design in the summer of 2024. Once we actually moved forward with Populous as the architect, moved forward with Legends as the operator consultant. It's central in the heart of the park, 10,000 seat capacity, 6,500 fixed seats, 3,500 seats lawn. It's a premier outdoor venue. It's 20 acres, $200 million in capital, world-class acoustics to make sure that it protects the neighborhoods, make sure it's designed to protect noise spill, facility design, food, premium spaces to ensure that it is representative of the community. It also would be accessible to the community when there are events that are not open, so really integrated into the community. And like we mentioned before, it's on par with the best venues out there, which has been the direction of council, is making sure that it is on par with the Greek Theater, who's been awarded, Amphitheater of the Year, on par with Hollywood Bowl, with Red Rocks, etc. These are some renderings of what the AMP will look like. You can see that there is some prominent branding, there's canopy, there's some shots over when there will be fireworks off the lake, and then a vantage point from the actual audience who will be experiencing this fantastic venue. Regarding Great Park Live, as we mentioned earlier, it's a temporary venue that was intended from council to sort of fill the gap between the closure of 5 Point and the opening of the permanent amphitheater. It's a small, intended to be a low-cost facility in comparison to the $200 million capital investment for the permanent amphitheater, concerts in the park, cover bands, small-scale festival activities, and the temporary summer home for Pacific Symphony. PSQ was selected based on the fact that they are a local events company, a staffing company. They had an agreement already existing with the city of Irvine based on Irvine Nights. They were also selected because they could staff up with a short period of time, given the fact that staff had about 90 days to actually stand up this venue. Temporary versus permanent amphitheater. So has the operation of the actual temporary amp met what was in the proposal of the temporary amphitheater? First 2 seasons, as has been mentioned, has had tribute bands and small number of local festivals. The financial forecast for the actual temporary amphitheater started off about $2 million loss over each season. It has increased significantly to millions of dollars in terms of losses for the actual temporary amphitheater. It utilizes food trucks, it utilizes sort of festival-themed food, if you will, and it's not what the expectations are of the permanent amphitheater. They're intended to be 2 completely different facilities, if you will. We expect the operations of the permanent amphitheater to be
Sorry, Liliana, excuse me 1 second. Carl, you didn't call 5 minutes about 3 minutes ago, so do you want to call the 5-minute warning on Board Member Mai's time?
Happy to.
That's what
when
the chairman asked you to call 5 minutes, right? So do you want to call 5 minutes?
He did, but generally when staff is responding, we haven't cut it off right then, but when
All right, well,
Liliana's
I'm the
finished,
chair of the
we will
meeting
cut.
now, and I'm calling 5 minutes. Excuse me 1 second. Board Member Martinez Franco and Board Member Liu, would you like Liliana? I'm happy to waive and let you continue, Liliana, but are you guys okay? Would you like your time now?
I actually wanted to continue because my questions relate to what she's saying.
Okay.
For continuity purposes, let's finish the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, you can continue.
No problem, thank you. Just 2 really quick last slides. So regarding financial comparisons of PSQ at the temporary amphitheater and the financial comparisons of what Legends has moved forward with in terms of a draft pro forma. For every $1 that the city makes at the temporary amphitheater, PSQ makes $3 at the temporary amphitheater. So about 75% to PSQ and 25% to the city. Regarding the permanent amphitheater and what we have negotiated with Legends is we would get 83% revenue to the city, 17% revenue to Legends Global. Permanent amphitheater, what I mentioned here, if you've heard this before, is we expect $8 million in the first year, increasing to about $11.5 million in year 3 as stabilization. That's attributed to the increase in amount of concerts and events, if you will. Fiscal impact, an additional nearly $2 million in sales, utilities, users tax, and TOT, and then 335 FTE jobs and additional economic impacts. I'm going fast. Next, construction documents are where we're at with the permanent amphitheater. So in terms of the next steps, we're almost through the finish line of the actual design component. We expect permits to be complete by this summer and opening by 2030. Thank you.
And Director Mai, your time is up.
Thank you. Vice Chair Carroll, were you still on the list? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Director Martinez Franco.
Yeah, thank you, Liliana, for that presentation, and also thank you to both companies. I think PSQ has done an excellent job managing the small events. I'm very happy attending all the festivals, and I'm sure not just me, but the community agree with me that you guys have done really, really good job. However, I need to emphasize that we are a city of over 300,000 people. We are the 12th largest city in California, and if we want to compare our city, or we want to elevate our city to the level of Anaheim at least, on their events, we have to hire someone who has more experience. And we have also transparency issues here. If we have already an RFQ, Liliana, I wanted to ask you, did PSQ submitted a proposal for the permanent amphitheater, and what place did they get?
Thank you. Betty Martinez Franco. So as part of the competitive process, people were required to submit for both the temporary and the permanent amphitheater. We then bifurcated those two items, and Legends, as I mentioned, scored top ranked on the permanent amphitheater, and then we had a number of other individuals that moved forward through the process. PSQ did not move forward through the process, so by virtue of that, they were ranked last as part of the competitive process. They did not meet the minimum qualifications to be able to move forward as part of that process.
Okay, so I don't understand why my fellow council members, board of directors, sorry, put this forward, this memo, knowing that PSQ didn't have the qualifications to manage a full amphitheater. Again, I am really grateful for all the events that they are putting together, and I hope we continue collaborating with PSQ in the future in the city. But we are a big city. We have to elevate our city, and with the all the events coming up, we need someone that can advise the city. Did PSQ collaborate in the 4th of July at all, by any chance?
I will defer to staff on the 4th of July.
Is the question, did they participate in the 4th of July? Yes, they did. I would say they did a wonderful job, and the issues that we had with the 4th of July in terms of traffic were solely on the staff.
Yes, but I mean, they could have advised, right? And this is why we need a bigger company that knows how to do these things, right? And if they were in the position that they wanted this kind of proposal, that's big proposal, they could have foreseen all these things and they could have just raised a flag. But that's my opinion, but thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Liu.
I have a few questions. So thank you for giving us kind of an overview of the historical background, because like Director Mai mentioned that 4 of us were not here when that happened. So I guess more of a fiscal concern that based on the previous presentation on the Great Park operating budget, can you elaborate on why the amphitheater was prioritized as a project?
In terms of delivery for the Great Park, I think it's been chosen as the centerpiece for the heart of the park, and we see it as an attractor to the park, and so it's a priority. The heart of the park is ready for construction now, and we have some items that are being awarded tonight, so the timing is right. In terms of the revenue, we have accounted for that revenue in our operating model, and so without it, we would be in a position of having to adjust our budget accordingly.
And so what kind of adjustments are we looking at?
So to replace $12 million per year, we would have to cut $170 million out of the capital budget to set up an endowment to pay for maintenance of the park going forward.
And is there any risk that if we delay the construction of the permanent amphitheater, not that I want it to happen, but what are the potential risk of a delay?
I think the future in terms of construction escalation is not really known. Historically, I think we're planning on 4 to 5% per year escalation, but it's purely a guess.
Okay, well, and I guess I just kind of need to educate myself. So, I mean, I guess Liliana can probably explain this. What are the different types of venues and how are we competitive compared to the other ones nearby?
Director Liu, thank you for that. So there are different types of venues. So from Great Park Live, which what we would call more of a lawn festival, where it's standing room, it's not intended to be sort of permanent infrastructure, if you will, to an amphitheater, which is intended to be in that 6,000 to 10,000 range. From there, you go into arenas, which is about your 16 to 20,000, and then you go into the stadiums, if you will, which is much larger, if you will, your 40,000. Regarding the competitive advantage, I think that may have been your second question, sort of how we fit into the market. We have done 2 studies regarding where we fit and why our size is 10,000 seats. So we did one with David Stone, which is an independent contractor that was part of the sub-consultant list through Populous. He did an actual competitive analysis surrounding the venue that we are going to be proposing, if you will, and then also looking at venues in comparable size to other areas in the United States. That's how we got to the 10,000, the 6,500, and the 3,500 seats to make sure that we're competitive in our market, if you will. There's a second competitive analysis that was done as part of our internal team with Legends that also talked about where do we fit, where are the actual tickets that are being sold, how do we compare with 5 Point, a lot of information regarding a methodical approach to where we are right now with the design and the actual capacity of it.
So I'm assuming that's how we arrive at the decision on selecting the operator or design consultant.
Director Liu, we arrived at the consulting operator for Legends as part of a competitive process.
Well, I guess another question, I was looking at the timeline. Construction bidding starts in fall 2026 and construction awards by end of 26, and we need operator beyond 27. When do you expect to start selecting the operator, and when we're projecting this project to be complete and open by 2030? So are we looking at stale information or?
Thank you, Director. The information is still very relevant because they've been part of the process. Legends, that is, has been part of the process for the last 2+ years regarding all of the intricacies regarding design. If the venue is to open on 2030, we would need at least 18 months to 24 months for an operator to be on board to make sure that there's pre-opening, hiring of the general manager, hiring of the booker, hiring of all the staff, making sure that marketing is done, making sure that we are being competitive in the market to ensure that shows are routed to our venue.
Okay. Because we have a lot of commenters about
Director Liu, your time is up.
All right. Oh, thank you.
There'll be another opportunity if you have any more questions. Director Agron, I believe you're next.
I don't think I'm being heard. There we are. All right. Let me just understand a little bit the timeline here. Mr. Elliott, and I think maybe some others made the point that there doesn't appear to be an urgency here to act today. Is that correct?
We have some time.
Tell us how much time we have.
So I think really by the end of, I guess the latest would be by the end of 2027 for award of an operator agreement.
We have some time to act on the question of an operator. All right. We don't have a motion in front of us, so I'm not quite sure whether there's going to be a vote. Let me just kind of give my impression here. This is an instance where the staff, over time, has gained a lot of knowledge. We've had some experience largely through staff and what it has learned to understand better the decision that we should make with respect to the permanent amphitheater. I must say that those of us who are here at the dais, I think altogether, all of our knowledge is insufficient to make any kind of important decisions today, or indeed in the weeks ahead. And since there's no urgency, what I intend to do, unless there's another motion that comes forward, and I'd be happy to defer to the principal presenters here, board members Go and our chair, and our vice chair, Board Member Carroll. I'd like to offer a motion to continue this matter.
Could I speak?
Well, can I just say what my thinking is, and then?
Yeah, but I'd like to speak.
No, go, sure.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. But
I just want to share my thinking. Happy to defer to others to speak to a different motion, but my own mindset here, look, we've got a lot of people with a lot of experience, great credentials here, a lot of information has been presented to us, but I'd like, for my part, to be able to take the time in the weeks, indeed the months ahead, perhaps see scheduled a special meeting that could be of longer duration than today's meeting for us to delve into these matters further, whether that's in March or April or indeed in May. I just personally want to see much more time. I do want to visit the Rady Shell. I want to also, I think, visit the Greek Theater. I remember as a kid going to a number of shows there and so forth. I just think we have a lot more work, a lot more homework to do as board members here on this matter. And I'm comforted in knowing that we don't have to make any decision tonight. So with that, I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chairman, and we'll proceed.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that. I'm not opposed to suggestions on how to move this item forward. As you know, the urgency really started when Chair Carroll was on this board as chair, and he was briefed and pushed in terms of moving forward. And then when I took over, there was a little bit of urgency as well. So I just want to be mindful. If there is time, then I'm happy to, of course, let us take its course. But so I just want to start with that, and I do have some other comments, but I do want to hear from Director Traceder as well before I make my comments.
Thank you very much. So I appreciate hearing from both companies, and it's given me a lot to think about. I appreciate the presentation from staff. It is consistent with my recall of this timeline. I have been very pleased with Legends. I've talked with them at various times to talk about their ideas for designing the amp and so forth, and I find them to be straight talkers, so I appreciate that. I haven't been able to talk to PSQ about this. I wasn't expecting this to be agendized, and so I will just say that before I am prepared to vote to award a contract to PSQ, I do need to do due diligence. And so that includes meeting with PSQ, perhaps seeing how they're operating the Great Park Live, maybe go behind the scenes what they're doing there. So at the moment, if I were asked to vote on this tonight, I would vote no on this. Perhaps you've got the votes with the other folks, but tonight I'm a no. That doesn't mean that I'm always going to be a no, but tonight I'm a no. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I believe we heard from most folks. I just want to come in and chime in. I appreciate your feedback, Director Traceder. So as you guys know, we did go to districts, and I think this is the rightful kind of avenue where this is happening. As you guys know, I am the district representative for the Great Park District 2, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods, not just the Great Park. And I'm also the lone council member and governing body here who pay the CFDs currently. So with that said, I really try to look at this more as my duty. As you know, I run the park every day, and just a few weeks ago, I ran 50 miles the other day, just studying every inch of this park. I try to live, breathe, and eat the park because it's a massive project, and I want to do it justice. It's not just a choice, it's a duty. Like I said, I represent the people, and I've learned a lot. And we call it the engineer in me. I like to tinker. I like to learn hands-on. I understand it much better when I do the work. So I welcome all my colleagues. I'm happy to share any of my findings, to help with any of your analysis. And I do agree, Mayor or Director, that you should visit all the venues. I have. I'm being criticized for going to the venues and inviting elected leaders and commissioners, but it's their rightful duty. It's a $200 million asset. Why would you not visit it? Why would you not compare the other venues? It's only due diligence. You're doing it as a duty, not so much other so. And you can have some fun along the way. As you guys know, I'm a happy person. I like to have fun. And I want everybody else to make sure that they're getting the best quality of life. Let's take, for example, like Wild Rivers. How did that come about, right? I mean, I'm sure that project wasn't brought in till the homes were built, but it's a little tone deaf because we have a water park in front of 10,500 households with predominantly Asians who typically don't go to water parks. Not to the fault on their own. I love Wild Rivers. As you know, I work there. I lifeguard there. So I'm just trying to make the best of it. I promote Wild Rivers. They did a holiday show this holiday, and a lot of people that don't want to be in the water, this is their chance to visit their park. And with that said, with this amphitheater, the last thing I want to do is repeat the past sins. You create this amphitheater, and it's not for the people who live there. You're just inviting everybody in the world to their front house, and they're not invited to the party. So I want to make sure that when this amp gets built, it's programmed properly for the predominantly Asian neighborhoods, because the last thing you want to do is make them angry every day because you're populating the streets, you're taking away their parking, and then they don't even get to do the show because there's no programming for them. No fault at anybody here. I'm not saying ASM can't do the job or PSQ. That's my part. That's what I'm doing. And I met with the ASM folks, and I gave that feedback. And I visited your venues, not quite Sacramento, but I visited the Greek, and I'm a concert goer. I love concerts. I like to be the consumer of the products. So that's really where I'm coming from in terms of being a council member or board chair to do the due diligence so that we have the right product. Because at the end of the day, we want a product that works financially. First and foremost, financially, it has to work. If it doesn't work financially, I think it's not a smart decision to move forward, spending $200 million just to lose some more money along the way. And I'm in the hospitality business. So you can ask me how to operate a 1,000 square foot restaurant or a 10,000 square foot restaurant or 20,000. The operations is the operations. We can scale. We can hire more people. But the most important thing for us is the people. How do you bring the people in? Without that element, there is no business to be run. So I think we're getting premature trying to discuss who's qualified or not qualified to run this. Because at the end of the day, it's business. It's basic, simple business. You have a math formula. You have X amount of people going to the venue, X amount of dollars coming in. You hire according to that. Again, when people say PSQ can't scale, I'm okay with that. I understand that. I'm not blind by that. And I understand ASM has multiple venues, and they can scale, and they have it there already. Everyone has their positives. What I'm looking for is a partner I can work with. I like working with people. I love people. Why work with someone you can't get along with or you don't like? If it looks nefarious...
Chairman, your time is up.
Couple more minutes. If it looks nefarious that I'm having fun and working with someone, it doesn't mean I'm doing anything beyond that. It's like, who wants to work with people that is just miserable all the time? And like I said, I welcome you all. I'm an open book, and I want to work with everyone here. And I'm listening to my council members. I get that there's a lot more research and homework that needs to be done. I'm happy to facilitate that. And rightfully so, I am your district representative as well as the Great Park chairman. I want to make sure that all voices are heard. And with that said, Director Liu, you're up next.
First, I want to say I appreciate what PSQ has done for the city, and I've been to a few events, and you've been doing a great job. And I visited the Greek, and I like what I was seeing. Having said that, I thought the longer the discussion is, I will get a little more clarity, but the opposite has happened. And just to continue what I was asking about, the criteria that we use to select a consultant, a temp operator, and maybe moving on for the permanent amphitheater operator. I'm assuming they're all different criteria because we're talking about different venues, and that's what I'm trying to find out. And I'm trying to get a little more educated. It sounds like it's a lot more than what we can decide on the dais today, unless we're all willing to have another 10 hours sitting right here. I guess my question is, given the timeline, Executive Director Crombie kind of answered, I guess right now is not a great time to start another RFQ, right? Or has things changed, or do we, that was kind of where I was alluding to.
Well, staff's position is we'd like to move forward with awarding per the previous process, but we're happy to start that over if that's the pleasure of the board.
But my concern is if we're going to do it earlier, the last one was done 2 years ago. Has that much changed, or are we just kind of duplicating efforts?
I think maybe market conditions have changed a little. PSQ has had some experience running our Great Park Live, so there are some changes, but not significant.
Okay, but we honestly would not need to do anything until maybe, say, end of 2027. So if we do anything right now, would that be premature as well?
There's time still to award an operator agreement.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Director Martinez-Franco and Director Mayafter.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the Great Park doesn't have only Asians, as director here was mentioning. I know a few officials, Mexican officials, that live in the Great Park. And also, let's not forget that Woodbury is 1 block away from the Great Park. My daughter lives in Woodbury, and she's a Mexican. So I just wanted to clarify that young people want a world-class event near them where they can just go and have fun. A lot of new people that are coming here to the new tech employers that are going to be hiring new people are going to be young people, and they need entertainment, world-class entertainment. And they are not going to be only Asians, which we need to include them in everything we do. But let's not forget that our city is very diverse, and we have a beautiful diversity in the entire city. Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't mean to be culturally insensitive, of course, but I just wanted to highlight that a lot of the residents at the Great Park, predominantly Asians, they typically don't vote because they come here from visa purposes and not all of them, but I do recognize there is a multitude of cultural diversities in the city of Irvine. Programming-wise, I believe we've done a great job making sure we're covered across the border spectrum. I've gone to the banda concerts. I didn't understand most of the words, but I enjoyed my time there. I've gone to heavy metal concerts. So I think I just want to make sure that people don't construe this as culturally insensitive. That is not my intention. Director Mai?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Let's move this conversation away from ethnicity. I think we need to move the ship away from there for sanity's sakes. I want to know, what is staff recommendation?
Staff would like to begin the process of building the amphitheater And so that's on the look ahead here. We'd like authorization to do that, and we're happy to bring back an operator agreement if it's the pleasure of the board.
So you're not asking for us to do anything right now. We can bring this back and discuss that. Is that?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, with that said, Director Crumbly, I will be offering a motion with sensitivities, with what you just have mentioned. I do want to move staff to look into possibly extending or relocating Great Park Live into the season to coincide when the permanent amp will get built. And I would also like to direct staff to move forward with the construction process as much as you can within reason. I do ask that we perhaps look at the berm situation in terms of noise attenuation and making it a little bit larger. I know with what Liliana presented, 6,500 fixed seats, and then the berm would fit roughly 3,500. If we can make that capacity flex a little bit larger, just for dual sake, in case we do need capacity in the future, also to make sure that we have the most amount of sound attenuation in preventing the previous problems of the amp. And I also want to revisit any contracts we have ongoing in the design of this amp, and want to make sure we're financially responsible in terms of how much work is really going in on the design while we don't have an operator. So I fully respect everyone's choice and decisions in this matter, and by any means, I am not trying to bring forward an item that nobody's ready to vote on. But in my defense, I stepped into this role almost about a month and a half, and I've always been prepped that we need to move this forward. So I was just being cautious and mindful of that, and I do want to move this forward. I think this is a good choice forward, Director Crumbly. So if we can all agree to that, I am happy to make sure that we keep moving forward. Yes, that was my motion.
Could you repeat the motion?
So I first and foremost, I would like staff to look into possibly extending the Great Park Live season into the 2030 season when you expect this amp to be completed, whatever that is, possibly extending our contract with PSQ or bidding. What you guys come back with a recommendation that's best for everyone. I prefer the PSQ since they're current operator, unless director will. So that's one, with the possibility of relocating it in the future to the Cultural Terrace. And number two is to increase the berm capacity so it would serve as more noise attenuation on the permanent amp. So we are remaining the fixed seats at 65, but we would like a flex space at the berm to be a little bit larger, and you can get back to us on that. And then the third item is to review any contracts we currently have with any vendor in conjunction to the amp being designed while we don't have an operator. So those are the three items. If anyone's agreeable, I'm happy to move this forward. Again, to reiterate, we're not choosing an operator. We're just satisfying what Director Crumbly has requested that we continue. So I believe everybody's conditions are pretty much in
Point of order?
Sure.
Do you want to wait till Vice Chair Carroll comes back?
I think he's an integral part to this. I'm not quite sure if he had restroom needs or not.
Mr. Chairman.
I can try to get him.
If I might,
Sure.
if that was a motion, I don't know that there's been a second. What I'd like to suggest is that this entire matter be continued, and Any direction you'd like to give?
Vice Chair Carroll, I just want to brief you that Director Crumby did state they are looking to move forward with the construction, but not the operator. So I did make a motion to, number one, to instruct staff to possibly move Great Park Live to the Cultural Terrace area and extend our contract for operations there until the permanent amp is completed. Increase the berm space for noise attenuation and possibly flex space increase. And then to review any contracts in conjunction to the design of the amp from now until we pick an operator so that we are financially responsible on the process. So we're waiting for a second.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to second that for purposes of discussion. I just want to hear it, maybe hear it another time, but
sure.
Happy to support you, Chair.
Director Gu, can I make a request? Can we define the increase in size?
So the thought process is we have the flex space, which I spoke with Liliana about. It's a function of surface area per X amount of space per person's comfortable with. So obviously we can define it by a number. So if we could...
Right now it's 3,500 people in that space.
35. So if we can make it comfortably so that we could fit perhaps 5,000 people or more, or whatever you guys feel is best, that achieves both things, whether we allow flex space to happen and as well as give us the option to create more sound attenuation to absorb more of the impacts. And I think it'll be a win-win because we're not per se saying this is our new venue size. I think, and there's certain needs that perhaps we could use it, sometimes we don't. I believe the studies have shown the permanent or the temporary amp, 14,000, hardly most of the shows did exceed that amount. Most of them are right around 10,000. So I hope that clarifies.
So that would take the total capacity to 11,500.
Again, you guys kind of, that's a good start. If not, whatever. I think if we could justify a sound attenuation factor that could be exponentially beneficial, it's just, so to speak, that we can fit more people, be it. We don't have to use the space per se, but it achieves the goal of making sure the noise issues for the neighborhood is addressed. Director Agron.
I'm going to say this as politely as I can. I don't know what the hell we're talking about now. If somebody can tell me what the motion is in front of us and what it has to do with the memo we received, if there were a motion in front of us, I would have assumed it would be what was suggested in this memo. It's recommended that the Great Park Board award the operational management contract for Great Park Live and the Heart of the Park Amphitheater at the Great Park to PSQ Productions by creating a second amendment to the existing agreement for contract services for development and management of temporary amphitheater at the Great Park to become an agreement for contract services for development and management of the amphitheater at the Great Park. Am I to understand that's out the window now?
Correct. I would like to be a mindful leader. You guys have spoken, and I am listening. I receive your feedback well. You guys have spoken, and this is the way. So now we have a motion where we want to make sure our economic interest is protected, that we continue Great Park Live into the extension of the permanent amp, increase our capacity so that we're economically and sound viable. And we want to make sure we're financially prudent to make sure that our contracts are reviewed moving forward. And I think that's the 3 items which Vice Chair Carroll has seconded. So if you guys have any other question, I'm happy to clarify further.
Yeah. I do have a question. I would like the clerk to actually read the motion.
I am going to try my very best, but I may defer to the chairman as well. So with your indulgence, the motion as I understand it, number 1 is to direct staff to look into extending the Great Park Live season into the 2030 season to coincide with the permanent completion, or the completion of the permanent AMP, and move forward with the construction process within reason. I believe there was a part of that too about extending the PSU, looking at potentially extending the PSQ contract. That was the first part. Number 2 was to look at increasing capacity, perhaps to 5,000 or more, with respect to a larger flex space or increase the berm space. And also to address sound attenuation. I believe that was part of it as well, sound issues. And then the third part of that, as I understand it, was to review current contracts related to design of the permanent, or review current contracts related to the design of the amphitheater between now and actually selecting an operator to ensure financial feasibility. That's the motion as I understand it, but I'll defer to the chairman if there's anything I missed.
That is, you're better at this job than me, Carl. That's why you get the big bucks. But you did miss one point. I would like to also staff study possibly moving Great Park Live into the Cultural Terrace in a future season, because as you know, that is not the ideal location for it with all the houses in the way. So that you captured it well, Carl. Thank you so much for doing my job.
Point of information.
Let me, if I might.
Point of information.
Well, one second. I had 5 minutes, right? And the chair, I won't say this in a rude way, he interrupted to clarify things or respond to a question that I had raised. So I presumably have at least 30 seconds left. Is that correct?
A little bit more than that, but yes.
All right. Mr. Chairman, all of the things that you suggested that staff look into, explore the size, movement to the cultural terrace, and so these are all useful inquiries. I don't think it requires a motion that relates to an agreement here to extend PSQ's contract or whatever. I lost track on some of this.
Director Agron, your time is up.
All right. So I would just suggest that instead of a motion here, just pursue these matters with our staff, and let's set this thing for another meeting after we've had a month or so to interact with staff. So I guess that's speaking, as it turns out, against your motion.
I'm gonna say point of order again, and that's against the Roberts rules, that I haven't been acknowledged. So can I talk now?
Yes, it's your turn.
Point of information to Mr. Melchin. What I hear here sounds like 3 motions. 3 motions that didn't speak to the agenda that we were talking about here. Public didn't have time to comment on the motion that Director Go just moved forward. Is that legal?
Thank you for the inquiry, Director Martinez-Franco. In the end, the initial decision about what is inside the scope of an agenda item lies with the chairman, and that can be appealed to the whole of the board. But you have asked me a direct question, and my answer to the question is I believe that extending a contract, maybe with PSQ, maybe with another operator, through 2030 is consistent with discuss a recommendation to award continued operations of the Great Park Amphitheater. So I think that is within the scope of the agenda item. I think the third item, which is to revisit contracts that we have ongoing regarding the design of the amphitheater, as I understood it from the chairman, I think that is intended to ensure that the design piece is syncing up with the operations piece going forward. And I think it may be generously, I understand that people could disagree, but I think that's within the scope of the agenda item. The item that relates to the changing the size of the berm at the permanent amphitheater, in all candor, I think it's hard to see how that's within the scope of the agenda item that has been put before. But I wanted to add something that the city manager mentioned to me. That item, in any event, is really not, it's not in a good place for Great Park Board action today because there's already prior standing direction from the City Council that 10,000 is the cap. And so in order to go past 10,000, we really need to go back to the City Council and get it to provide different direction. So with all respect, and thank you for the question, I think parts 1 and 3 are properly before the board. I think part 2 is not.
Okay, I'm happy to withdraw the part 2 of the motion. So we would remain with just the 1, and the 3 is fairly benign. It's just, we should be doing the review regardless. Any other comments? Director Agron, I believe you're...
So how does the motion stand now?
It's my understanding it was the removal of number 2 that talked about increasing the size of the flex space and the berm. That's the part that was withdrawn.
All right. I'd like you to read the motion one more time.
Again, as I understand it, it's to direct staff into look into extending the Great Park Live season into the 2030 season to coincide with the permanent amphitheater completion, and potentially look at extending the PSQ contract. And then the third piece was to review the current contracts related to the design of the AMP between now and selecting an operator to ensure financial feasibility. And also to have staff look at the potentially moving Great Park Live into the cultural terrace.
So we're extending a contract here by virtue of this motion, if it were to pass?
Director Agron, no.
Yes, if I could, to the council.
So the answer is no. All that is being requested is that staff look into options to extend the Great Park Live temporary amphitheater contract to 2030 to coincide with the opening of the permanent amphitheater. And to get even more pointedly to your question, this is a meeting of the Great Park Board. You can't extend any contract. It would have to go to the City Council.
Right, so this is a motion to look into. That's
right.
That.
Presumably with staff to bring its conclusions back to the board.
Yeah. Well, again, I just think all these matters ought to be put off. It sounds to me like we're kind of getting into an entire evaluation of where we are, the status of the park, and where we should be going, which I'm happy to do, but not by way of this motion at this time, creating a lot of confusion about whether we've actually decided anything with respect to operations of whether it's Great Park Live or our permanent amphitheater. And so, again, I would speak against the motion, and if it's defeated, I'd like to offer a motion thereafter.
Thank you, Director Agron. Before Director Liu speaks, I listened to what everybody has said, and I just want to echo that I will keep working no matter which decision's made today, and tirelessly to make sure this goes well for all of us, everybody, and you have that promise from me. I think it's pretty reasonable from where we started to where we are now. Like I said, no decision is being made. This is just like anything we do. And Director Agron, as you always have put, staff has been tasked with the direction, and that's it. Like you said, it's not a definite. And out of respect for me, I work tirelessly day and night, and I would like progress to make sure that we keep moving. And I think, Director Crumby, I've spoken with you many times. We're in the same mindset. We're both engineers at heart. We want progress. And I think my residents hate that part about us. We sit here and we argue. Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever moves. I want that to change, and I'm here for that change. If you guys would entrust me, I will keep working for you. Director Liu?
I just wanted to make sure that with the two items in front of us today on the motion, did I hear you right, that contract extension will have to be decided on? I know that you just said the capacity needs to be decided by the council, because that was previously decided by the council. Did I hear you right, that contract extension would be something that needs to be discussed by the council as well?
Yes, yes. The city of Irvine owns the Great Park, and it is the contracting party for all of the agreements, including amphitheater agreements. So in the end, the party that would enter into a contract is the city, not the Great Park Corporation.
Right. Okay, great, thank you. And one more question, I guess this one will be directed to Liliana. Assuming that we pick a operator today, are we just set for that, or are we going to continue any negotiation?
Director Liu, an operator for which venue? For Great Park Live
for the amphitheater?
For the permanent amphitheater?
Mm-hmm, the permanent.
We would certainly continue on negotiation. So we have a term sheet, we have from Legends what the pro forma looks like. But yes, the next step would be for staff to bring forward an actual term sheet and an agreement to move forward with an operator.
And this will be a question for the chair. When you propose an extension of the contract, are we talking about extending the current contract as it is? Willem? Chair?
Yeah.
Did you hear my question?
No, sorry.
When you propose an extension for PSQ, are we talking about the terms of the contract as it is right now?
That is for staff to discuss. I have not, unfortunately, privy to every detail of the contract. It's beyond my purview. I would love to get involved and be a part of it if I'm allowed, but my time, as you know, is limited. So it is up to staff to bring us the proper recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe, are you speaking again, or you're?
No.
Okay. With that said, I really want to make sure that we don't need to belabor this any further. I've spoken my piece. I do hope everybody sincerely understands that I truly appreciate all of you for what you do for our city. And I also commend my council member colleagues for participating and doing your part in this. And as you know, a lot of us do this tirelessly every day by choice and duty. So I just want to see if we can have Chairman Carroll.
Oh, thank you. So I guess just to try to understand the primary motion, and if we can, through the chair, if Director Agron was going to propose something else, is that something through the chair that we can hear from him before we take a vote?
I guess I'm confused. I'm happy to remake the motion to any way that allows us to continue a forward path. I believe I've given enough points and then listened to enough people to try to move this forward so that our Great Park can continue to building, as infrastructure as needed. So I just would like to take a vote, and if you guys vote no, I will recollect and I will figure out what needs to be done to move things forward. So it's entirely up to you guys. I mean, I'm a lone person here as the chairman, but I'd like to continue doing my part.
Okay, well, I still have some more minutes here, Chairman. So, the motion, just to our city attorney, I mean, we're the Great Park Board, okay? We're the board of a 501c3 corporation, so I'll put my lawyer hat on a little bit. We can't enter into any contract, but the way that you see it, just so as the 7 of us kind of go down this line here, is the motion is asking, or what's the legal effect? What's it doing?
It's directing staff to go out and explore terms for two things. One, for the extension of the existing temporary amphitheater contract through 2030 to correspond to the opening of the permanent amphitheater. It does not specifically require that contract, that we even envision that the contract go to PSQ. It could be to somebody else. That's one thing. The second thing is direction to staff to ensure that its current design contracts are syncing up with its current thoughts on how the amphitheater would be operated. Those are two things. It's direction to staff. The board has provided direction to staff many times before. It isn't a formal action to actually move forward so much as it is to set a course that would allow us to move forward at a later meeting. And measure, just one more thing, Councilmember Carroll, or Vice Chairman, I apologize. Just super quick. Measure V, which was discussed in the opening presentation, requires that any contract for the expenditure of city funds come back through the Great Park Board first. So one way or another, this does have to come back through the board, then go to the council.
Okay, so and then it's just as a point of reference, when is the Great Park Live contract currently set for expiration with PSQ?
2027.
2027. So this is direction to explore the extension of that and the other piece that you spoke of.
That's correct.
So it's really just a recommendation.
It's instructions to staff.
And I guess thank you. And I guess my question for the city manager is: does this create any sort of? It's okay. You don't have to give me a yes answer or a no answer. Just the answer. Does this create some kind of a issue for you or?
No. I'm happy to follow the direction.
Okay, so a vote for the chairman's motion would be just supportive of kind of pushing everything along, I believe, which is why I will support it. I don't know what a vote no is, other than, telling the chairman no, which I don't think, having been the chairman of this board for 2 years, is really the proper way to treat a new chairman of this board. So I will be strongly supporting a yes. Whether anyone thinks this has any legal effect or not is almost not the issue, as it is a new chair trying to navigate through something that I spent over 2 years doing, and over something that I spent 3 years chairing a commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, doing, which is running a very difficult meeting. And when I did it, I had 4 colleagues, and the person to my left has literally, did I have 4? Yeah, 4, and now the number has now, multiplied manyfold. So I will be voting yes. I urge my board colleagues to please vote yes and support the chairman's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I really don't want to hold up anyone's time any further than it needs. Can you please call the vote, Clerk?
Director Agron?
No.
Director Liu?
No.
Director Mai?
No.
Director Martinez-Franco?
No.
Director Treseder?
No.
Vice Chairman Carroll?
Yes.
Chairman Go?
Yes.
Motion fails 2-5 with Director Agron, Director Liu, Director Mai, Director Martinez-Franco, and Director Treseder voting no.
Having completed the board agenda, is there a motion to adjourn the Great Park Board meeting?
I'll move adjournment, Chairman.
Second that. Will the clerk please provide a roll call vote?
Director Agron?
Yes.
Director Liu?
Yes.
Director Mai?
Yes.
Director Martinez-Franco?
Yes.
Director Treseder?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Carroll?
Yes.
Chairman Go.
Yes.
Carry
Meeting
7-0.
is adjourned. Thank you so much for coming, everybody.